Hello guys, welcome back to another tutorial. My name is Dorothy. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I draft and sew this beautiful corporate dress that I'm putting on. It's a pencil or straight dress that has this beautiful stylish design that overlaid the dress. If this is something you're interested in, watch this video to the very end so you don't miss out on any detail or explanation. To my new and old subscribers, you're welcome. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do also subscribe, turn on the post notification so that you get notified when I drop new video every week. Now let's get started with the video. I'm using these two fabric for this tutorial. The black one is crepe and I have 2 yards here, while I have this other one that is kind of check. I don't know what name it's called, and I have 1 yard of it. Now I'm going to take this fabric away while we work on our pattern. I have my pattern paper laid already and I have gone ahead to rule out my horizontal line. So here is my shoulder line, here is my bust point line, here is the waistline, here is the hip line, and this line is the length of the dress that we are working on. Go ahead and do the same thing. Mark out your vertical points, then connect the points horizontally just like I did. So this is how I take the measurement. From my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. I mark that. Then from my shoulder to my waistline is 16 inches, but because I'll be adding a side dart to it, I mark 17 inches. So 1 inch is for the side dart. From my shoulder to my hip line is 24 inches. Because of the effect of the side dart, I mark 25 inches. Then from my shoulder to the length of the dress that I'm working with is 45 inches. I just mark 40 inches for now because the pattern paper will not contain the 45 inches. So when I'm transferring this pattern paper to the fabric, I will add to the length. On the shoulder line or starting line, I'm going to mark half of my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 15 inches. Divided by 2 is 7.5, so I mark 7.5 there. On this point that I mark half of my shoulder measurement, I came down by 8 inches for the armhole line measurement. At this point, my camera stopped filming and I didn't know, so let me explain what I did here. After marking the armhole line measurement, I connected a straight line to meet the shoulder point. That is the armhole line. Then I extended the line horizontally. Then I divided this armhole line into 2 and I marked the midpoint. On that midpoint, I came in by half an inch and I make a mark. Then on my chest line, I divided my round bust measurement by 4. Then I marked it. After that, I used my ruler to connect the 3 points together to create this beautiful armhole curve. For the neckline measurement, I work with a standard neckline measurement where the neck width is 3 inches, while the neck depth is 3 inches. Now I connected the 2 points together to create this round neckline like this. After that, I slanted the shoulder, and that was what I did here. I hope now I'm not leaving anybody behind. The next thing that I will be working on is the dart. So on the bust point here, I'm going to divide my nipple to nipple measurements by 2 and I mark it. My nipple to nipple is 7. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So I mark this on the bust point. I will also mark the same thing here on the waistline, and I will mark the same thing here on the hip line. Then I'm going to use my ruler to connect this 3 points that I have marked together on the straight line like this. For the dart leg here on the waistline, I'm going to mark half an inch on both sides. Then on my hip line, I'm going to come up by 3 inches and then make a mark there. Now I'm going to use my ruler to connect this point that I have marked like this to create the dart. Now let's mark the body measurement. Here on the bust point, I'm going to mark quarter of my bust measurement. My bust measurement is 36. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So I mark that on the bust point line. Then on the waistline, I'm going to do the same thing as well. I'm going to divide my waist circumference measurement by 4 and I'll mark it. Then I measure this dart that I took and I replace the dart. On the hip line, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll mark quarter of my hip measurement. My hip is 40. 40 divided by 4 is 10, so I mark that. On the length of the dress or pattern, I'm going to minus 1 inch from quarter of my hip measurement. Now the quarter of my hip measurement is 10. I minus 1 inch from it, making it 9, so I mark 9 inches on the length of the pattern. Now I'm going to use my ruler to connect all those points that I have marked together. To determine the length of the side dart, you will need to take the difference in measurement between the shoulder to waist in front and the shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 16 inches, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 40 inches. 16 minus 14 is 2 inches. So the difference in measurements between the front and the back piece is 2 inches. So from the bust point here, I'm going to come down by 2 inches. I marked it, then I used my ruler to connect a slant line like this. From this point I mark 2 inches to the bust apex. That is this point that I mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement. To work on the second neckline, that is this black inner neckline, here on the armhole line I'll come down by 2.5 inches. For the neck depth, you have to decide on how much cleavage you want to leave. For me, I'll come down by 7 inches from the starting line and I make a mark. Now I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect these 2 points that I have marked to create a round neckline. Now I'm going to use my tracing wheel to trace all this line on the next pattern paper. Like I said earlier, this pattern paper is folded into 2. After tracing all the line, I'm going to open up the pattern paper like this. I hope you can see all the lines that I traced out. Now I'm going to use my pencil to draw out the lines so that it will become more visible. So this is what we have after I was done rolling out the lines. Let me just turn this paper over like this, not for anything, I just want to be more comfortable. To create this C curve on this design that overlaid the dress, remember that on my shoulder line I already come down by 2.5 inches for the neckline of the black inner. So from this point I mark 2.5 inch, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Then here on the bust line at the center of the pattern paper, this grease line you are seeing, I'm going to go out by 1 inch. Okay, then I want the length of the C curve to end exactly 1 inch below my underbust measurement. So I place my tape pro on the shoulder line. So from my shoulder to my underbust measurement is 13.5. So 1 inch below the underbust measurement is 14.5. So I mark that. Now I'm going to use my free hand to connect these 3 points together to create the C curve. If you cannot connect the 3 points together all at once, you can use a broken line to connect the points together before you blend the broken lines. On this point where the length of the C curve end, I'm going to come down by 2.5 inches, and the 2.5 inches is sitting pretty well on the waistline. On the hip line on this other side, I'm going to come in by 4 inches and I'll make a mark there. Now I'm going to use my free hand to sketch out this design that runs from the waist all the way to this side of the hip. You can use a broken line to sketch out the design just to see what you will get first before you blend the line just the way you see me doing. There's no better way I would have done it. If you have a better option of making this kind of sketch, why not go ahead and implement it? Now that we are done creating the design, I'm going to place another pattern paper beneath this pattern paper and we are going to trace out this design on this fresh pattern paper. Go ahead and place an heavy object on the pattern so that it doesn't shift when you are tracing, or you can as well use your office pin to pin the patterns together. Now I'm going to use my tracing wheel to trace out all the line from the first neckline down to the hip line. The only thing that I'm not tracing out here is the second neckline. So guys, this is what I have after I was done tracing out the line, and I've also gone ahead to use my marker to highlight the line so that it will be more visible. To eliminate the waist dart on this stylish design, remember the 1 inch that I mark on the waist dart. So here on the waistline, I'm going to come in by the 1 inch. Now I'm going to use my ruler to connect this point to the upper bodice towards the bust, and I'll also extend this line downwards towards the hip line. Now we have eliminated the waist dart on this side. Now we are going to do the same thing to the second waist dart. So on this side, I'm going to come in by the 1 inch that I mark as the waist dart. Then I will use my ruler to connect the point that I have marked to the upper bodice towards the bust line, and I will also extend the line towards the hip line just like. Now we have eliminated the both waist dart. Because we have eliminated the waist dart, this side line is no longer equal. To make this equal, you are going to fold the side dart like this, then go ahead and use your ruler and marker to retrace the line. And that's basically all. Now let's go ahead and cut this out. This is all for the design. Now to eliminate any form of bulginess around the C-curve, on this neckline I'm going to fold it into two so I can get the midpoint. Now I'm going to place my ruler in a slanted way like this, that it connects to the midpoint on the neckline to the C-curve, and I will use my pencil to roll the line like this. Then I will shift the ruler a little bit of about half an inch and I'll connect this point to the neckline as well. Now I'm going to use my scissors to cut one of the line all the way to the neckline. When you are cutting on the line all the way to the neckline, make sure you don't cut out the neckline in total. Now I am going to use this side that I have cut to cover up the lines like this. I hope you can see what I'm doing. Then I will use my water glue to gum it together. You can use the masking tape to cover this up if you don't have a water glue. Now I will use my scissors to trim out the excess around the C-curve like this. We are basically done with this design, so I'm going to keep this aside while we work on the main pattern. To eliminate bulge around the second neckline, I'll simply take a dart stem. So I'll place my ruler connecting from this dart point, that is this bust apex, to the midline on the pattern paper, and I'll connect the 2 points together. After that, I'm going to shift my ruler around the neckline like this, while the other part of the ruler is still on the bust apex, and I'm going to create another line connecting to the bust apex by half an inch. I will also do the same thing to the second side. I will place my ruler like this, connecting the dart apex to the center of the pattern paper, and I'll roll a line across. After that, I will shift my ruler around the neckline while the other part of the ruler is still connected to the bust apex. To eliminate the side darts, the first thing we are going to do is to cut through the waist dart like this. While I was trying to close up the side dart, I had excess pattern obstructing me, so what I'm going to do is to cut out the pattern. After cutting out my pattern paper, I decided to cut out the waist darts also. And now I'm going to use my scissors to cut through the side darts all the way to the bust apex point. Now I am going to close up the side dart like this, then I will use my water glue to gum it. Like I said earlier, if you have a masking tape, you can use it as well. You can see how it looks like after I was done closing up the side dart. You can see that the bust shape is already coming out. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the second side as well. This is what I have after I was done closing the second side dart. You can see how the bust shape is fully out. To eliminate gaping on this neckline, I'm going to use my scissors to cut through one of the dart leg all the way to the bust apex, just as you see me doing. Just make sure you don't cut through everything. And I'm going to do the same thing to this other side as well. I'm going to cut through one of the dart leg all the way to the bust apex, just the way you see me do. Now I'll use this side to close up the dart, then I will use my water gum to gum it together. I'll also do the same thing to this other side. I will use one of the sides to close up the dart, then I will use my water gum to gum it together. This is what I have after I was done closing up the dart on the neckline. The next thing I'm going to do, this excess on the neckline, I'm going to use my curve ruler to redraw the line, then I'll use my scissors to cut it out. Leaving the pattern like this will not be too nice because we cannot transfer this pattern to a fabric looking like this. So what we will do is to either make this a bustier top by connecting the dart all the way to the neckline, or we can make this a princess dart bustier. For me, I'll be working with a princess dart bustier. So from this bust apex, I'm going to connect the dart all the way to the armhole. Now I went on to measure the length that I used for this armhole, and when I measured it I had 2 inches. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other armhole. So on that armhole I'm going to come down, on this armhole I'm going to come down by 2 inches and I'll make a mark there. Then I'll go ahead to, then I will connect a line from the bust apex all the way to the arm, all the way to the point I came down by 2 inches. I hope you guys understand what I am saying. If you don't, please pay attention to the video and you will get it. Now let's go ahead and cut this out. We are basically done drafting the front pattern together with the stylish design that overlay it, and here is exactly how this stylish design is going to be placed on the pattern. Now I am going to keep this aside while we work on the back pattern. For the back pattern, I've gone ahead to rule out the vertical point, then I went on to connect the point horizontally. Here is exactly how I measured and marked the point. The first line is the shoulder line, so I placed my measuring tape on the shoulder line, then I came down by 10 inches for the bust length measurement. Then from the shoulder to the waistline, I'm going to maintain my actual waist measurement, which is 15 inches. Then from my shoulder to my waistline is 24 inches. I mark that. Then the length of the dress on the pattern is 40 inches. I marked that as well. So I went on to connect this point into horizontal lines. Then for the straight line I'm having before the horizontal line is my zipper allowance. So let me go ahead and label all this line. Here is the dress length, here is the hip line measurement, here is the waistline, and here is the bust line measurement, here is the shoulder line measurement, and lastly my zipper allowance. The allowance that I left for my zipper is 2 inches. To mark the neckline measurement, here on the shoulder line I'm going to mark 3 inches as the neck width. Then for the neck depth I came down by 1.5 inch and I make a mark there. Now I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect these 2 points together to create a round neckline. Still on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark half of my shoulder measurement. Half of my shoulder measurement is 7.5 inches. When you are taking your measurement, make sure all your measurements start on this zipper line, that is on the straight line, not where the zipper allowance starts, okay? So on that point I mark half of my shoulder measurement. I'm going to come down by 8 inches and I'll make a point there. Now I will use my ruler to connect this point horizontally. This horizontal line is going to serve as the chest line. Then I will take this line all the way up to meet where I mark half of my shoulder measurement. Now this straight line is going to serve as the armhole line. To slanten the shoulder, on the armhole line I'm going to come down by 0.75 inch and I'll make a mark. Then I will use my ruler to connect this point that I came down by 0.75 inch to the neck width. To create the back armhole curve, you're going to measure the armhole line, then divide it into 2 and mark the midpoint. Then here on the chest line, you're going to mark quarter of your bust circumference measurement. The quarter of the bust circumference measurement is gotten when you divide your round bust measurement by 4. Now my round bust measurement is 36. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So I mark 9 inches on the chest line. Now I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect these 2 points together to create the back armhole curve. To mark the body measurement, here on the bust line, I'm going to mark what I mark on the chest line, that is quarter of my bust circumference measurement. Hope you remember how we come about the quarter of the bust measurement. Now here on the waistline, I'm going to mark quarter of my waist measurement. Quarter of my waist measurement is 7.5. Then I added 1 inch for the dart intake. On the hip line, I'm going to mark quarter of my hip measurement. The quarter of my hip measurement is 10 inches. I mark that. Then on the length of my pattern, I'm going to minus 2 inches from the quarter of my hip measurement. That is 10 minus 2, 8. You can do more depending on how much pencil you want the length to be. So me, I remove 2 inches from the 10 inches and I mark 8 inches there. Now I'm going to use my ruler to connect all these points I have marked together like this. Before we take the dart, let's remove any form of zipper bulge. Here on the waistline, I will come in by 1 inch. Now I will use my ruler to connect this point to the hip area like this, and I'll also connect this point all the way to the bust point area like this. Now we have successfully eliminated any form of zipper bulge at the back. To mark the dart, I'm going to measure my waist measurements, what I have here, and I have my exact waist measurements. I'm going to divide it into two, then I'll mark the midpoint. Now I'm going to use my ruler to connect this point and mark on the mid of my waistline to the hip line, and I'll also extend it all the way to the bust line, just like this. For the dart leg, here on the waistline, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides. Then here on the hip line, I will come up by 3 inches and I'll make a mark. Now I'm going to connect all these points together to create my dart. So guys, the 1 inch that we removed from the waist to eliminate zipper bulge, we are going to replace it. So here on the waistline, I'm going to go out by 1 inch and I'll make a mark there. I'm going to use my ruler to connect this point to the bust line like this, and I will also extend this line also to the hip line, just as you see me doing. Now we have successfully replaced the 1 inch we took to eliminate the zipper bulge. I'm just going to blend up the lines so that it will become more visible. For this dart, I don't want to leave it as a straight dart. You can leave it like this if you want. So I want to make this into a princess dart. On the dart point here, I'm going to connect a broken line to the mid armhole, just the way you see me doing. Now I'm going to use my free hand to connect this point that I have marked together to create the princess dart. After connecting the point to create the princess dart, the next thing I'm going to do is to redraw my armhole. So I'll simply place my armhole curve like this and I will redraw the armhole. Now let's mark the zipper allowance. I'll be using 1 inch as my zipper allowance. So here on the waistline, I'm going to come out by 1 inch. I mark that. Then on the neckline, I'm going to mark the same thing as well. I'll mark this 1 inch from top to bottom. Then I'll go ahead and use my ruler to connect all the points that I have marked together. This is now my new zipper allowance. Let me redraw all these lines so that it will be more visible. Now let's go ahead and cut this out. So guys, this is what we have our back pattern looking like. Now the last I'm going to do, I'm going to use my scissors to cut through this armhole princess dart, and we are basically done drafting this pattern. Because I don't want this video to be too long, I will be stopping here. In my next video, we'll be transferring this pattern to the fabric. We'll be doing the cutting and the sewing, everything. Thank you so much for watching this video. If this video was helpful, why not give this video a thumbs up? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit the subscribe button to join this community, because on this channel I share videos on pattern drafting and sewing tutorials. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you all in my next one.